Hi guys, welcome back for the last episode. Sadly, I'm no longer in Italy, but of course have to fill you in on the rest of the story. So the rest of my last day was pretty good. Hung out at the beach for a little bit longer. I didn't really get a full day like I was hoping to, but anyways, a little bit of a different vibe. They had some of those beach club places, and we ended up just sitting next to one, so had a little bit more of the party music going on, and that kind of vibe. But again, just nice to change it up. And went for a swim, of course, again. There are, again, rocks in the water. There's always some, which I was climbing on top of again. But for the first time of all these days, like swimming in the water, climbing on these rocks in the water and all that stuff, I'm looking closer, trying to again because I don't have goggles, and I'm pretty sure I see sea urchins on the rocks or somewhere in there. So I got really lucky. I never stepped on one or like grabbed one, because as clear as the water is, I had not noticed any of those before. So maybe I just found some rocks happened to have them and not most of them, but I was like, oh man, so glad I luckily avoided that. I easily could have stepped on one and had no idea there are any there. So luckily avoided that. Another cool thing I saw was there was like this little kid surfing with, I don't know, let's say a couple of brothers. They're on boogie boards, but it was cool seeing that. It was a tiny little surfboard. I mean, there were really no waves, like I would say 0 to 1 foot, but still cool to see. He was catching waves, so I was like, that's pretty cool. It would be so awesome to surf there if they actually had bigger waves, maybe next time. But yeah, so noticed that was cool to see. And then oh yeah, of course we drank some more mate, and with these little cookies my friend had and stuff, so just enjoying that. I don't know why, but the mate for some reason tasted even better than I feel like when I make it myself, which is rare, but enjoying that. So yeah, just hanging out, enjoying the rest of the beach. And then before going was just wanting to get, like whatever, take another photo before I leave, that sort of thing. Plus the whole time it's pretty much just me, so most of my photos are just selfies, and this time I was there with my friend. So anyways, he's like taking some photos for me and then trying to get, good lighting with the sun and everything, all that sort of stuff. And he's like, why don't we just go over there to where those rocks are? It'll be like better with where the sun is, but like better background instead of just standing in front of the beach club place or whatever. So I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll walk over there. This is where I climbed up to take the video, actually. So we walk over there, and then I'm like climbing on some rocks basically to go into the water. And as I'm stepping on one of the rocks in the water, I slip and fall. So I take this big fall. Luckily I kind of caught myself. Phone didn't submerge in the water or anything like that, and again, it's like hard after the fact to even realize exactly how you did it, but I sliced my shin, so I have this huge gash on my shin now. I got my foot a little bit, but I mean pretty long. It's definitely gonna leave a nice scar. So that happened, and I was like, of course, I don't get hurt like doing any of the risky stuff or whatever kind of hiking or other things I always find myself doing, swimming out to the middle of the sea. But I just slip and fall on a rock and then cut my leg pretty bad. It was all white when I was looking at it. I was like, ooh, not that it was the bone, it just looked really bad. So anyways, that happened, but all good. So some of the photos we took after, it's like me posing, and if you look close enough, you can just see there's blood gushing down my leg, basically. So nice photo ops. So that was the rest of the beach day. Then we go to catch the bus, and of course this always happens last day. It's like Murphy's Law, right? So we go to catch the bus. It's getting closer. And then the last couple of minutes, I'm like, I'm gonna kind of run a little bit to the stop just to make sure, you know? And then I was trying to save the pin before with other stops just to make sure I remembered like where I got off, which I kind of forgot to do right when I got off. I did a little bit later, and then I couldn't really remember if it was like at this one point or a little bit farther down there was another kind of road crossing. So anyways, I'm running a little bit to try to like go check it out. In the end, never see a bus. And they're pretty actually punctual, which is surprising. I'm actually amazed how punctual Italy is, because I figured, I mean, more like, you know, Spain, Latin America, not like Switzerland style, but anyways, they're pretty punctual. So never saw the bus. And then I'm like, okay, I know the driver said it's supposed to come out this time, which means, I don't know, maybe the driver even came just before or whatever, didn't see anyone and just didn't even stop, kept driving. I don't know. But of course, it's like the day I have to get back, I have a flight, all that stuff, and like no bus. So I'm like, of course. Anyways, so we're trying to figure out what to do. And my friend's all about like just walking everywhere, no matter how far. And I'm like, I get that sometimes, but in this scenario, I'm like, you know, I'd definitely rather take the bus. So we missed that option. You know, they only come once an hour to go to the beaches. So we're trying to figure out what to do. And then we're deciding, we'll kind of like start walking back and then maybe try to hitch a ride, do that. So we're walking towards the main road now. And then like right after we kind of get there and cross the street, we see this bus coming. And we're like, maybe that's a bus or whatever. So we're trying to like run after the bus, and eventually he kind of pulls over like farther down, and we're again kind of like running after the bus. He stops at some point farther down. I think he saw us, but was just like waiting, looking for a good spot to pull over, more or less. And we're talking to him. Thank God my friend speaks Italian now. He's been in Italy since May and is pretty fluent and just picked it up, which also I find amazing. I'm like, that would never happen here, but I feel like in other countries they'll pick it up way faster just being there, conversing with people. But like people just pick it up from working with tourists and stuff, which I think is so cool. That would never happen here. But anyways, luckily he can communicate a lot more with the bus driver than I can, you know? So anyways, we're trying to ask like, how long will it take? So he's not going like basically in the direction we want. It's not the bus we needed. We definitely missed that. It's another one going kind of in the opposite direction, but eventually he would loop back. It would take a while, but I was still like, you know, if it's us on this bus for 50 minutes or us walking 40 minutes or whatever, I'd rather at least just get on the bus, you know? Even though my friend would have walked. But we get on the bus. My friend's still talking to him more and everything, which again, thank God he can communicate and explain more. So he's asking him more details and where does it go and blah, blah, blah. And he tells him like, oh, I have a flight and I'm trying to like take the bus to the airport, which that's like an hour and a half away to get to Cagliari. The whole thing. He ends up doing us a favor, which was super nice, and pretty much like swings through town before making all the other stops, which would have been totally out of our way, which was so nice of him. So thank God again. He ended up like dropping us off in town, which is a super close walk to the Airbnb, and then wasn't more rushed like we would have been had we been on the bus for 50 more minutes. So that was that. The rest of the time went pretty smooth. That was the last little adventure there, falling, cutting my leg, missing the bus, finding this other bus, but luckily it still took us back. The rest kind of went smooth, taking the bus back to the airport back. I didn't get charged again by Ryanair, which was nice because I ended up checking the bag prior for the way back, so I didn't have to pay 70 euros. But then I was like, oh, maybe they'll still charge me more because I did the 10K check instead of the 20, and it ended up being over 10, I don't know, but they didn't charge me, so that was nice. Grabbed another cappuccino because I'm like, okay, you know, I leave tomorrow, so might as well get one here while I'm at the airport. Did it Italian style, which is like standing up at the counter, even though I tried to ask for one to go, but I guess that didn't go through. So I had it at the counter. Anyways, everything went smooth. Got back. There was no public transportation options for getting to my hotel, which is kind of like an Airbnb anyways, like apartment style. So I actually ended up trying the free taxi thing I told you guys about, which is like Uber, which was interesting. Like, it worked fine and everything in the app, but it gives you a price range, and it was cheaper than the price range on Uber, so I decided to try it, and in the end it was like way more, I feel like, or the very top end of the price range versus what it initially said it was going to be. So taxis there are super expensive anyways, keep that in mind, but I didn't have any other option at this point anyways, so I did that. The rest of the evening I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. That whole thing was up in the air too, but I was actually trying to meet up with my new favorite bartender, but that didn't work out. He had to work and wasn't getting off early, and then I found out, which I also didn't know, I was supposed to check into my place by 8 p.m. And in the end I didn't get there to 9:30 because they don't basically stay at the reception the whole time. So the lady had to come back to let me in. So if I even tried to take public transportation, I would have gotten there too late. I had told her maybe like, I think I'll be there by 10:30, and she's like, okay, but you can't get there any later. So I had thought about, maybe I'll go back, like stop by the bar, say hi, hang out, then head back. And none of that worked out. So I just went back. And then again, flew out this morning, which also, initially went smooth. Another weird thing though, so I took Uber this time in the morning. And then when I get to the airport, the driver tells me, because Uber is everything like in the card, you pay in the card in the app. Then he explains, because he had to come from the airport to pick me up to then take me to the airport, Uber's weird how it works there, and it doesn't cover, like the app doesn't cover that portion of that. He wasn't already close by. He had to come 15 minutes away, whatever it is, to get me to then go take me on the ride. So he charged me additional on top of that, which that would never happen here. So it's just so interesting how different it works in other countries. So anyways, keep in mind taxis are super expensive in Italy, but sometimes you have no options. So expensive last night and this morning. There was an extra charge, but otherwise all good. He said, and I saw this as we arrived, in case you're going to Italy and need a taxi, there's an IT, like Italy IT taxi. He's like, that's what you should use. It's the best one for there. And I think it takes all that into account, and they just use a meter or something. So anyways, that went well. I get in the airport though, and it's like crazy packed, lines everywhere. And I'm like, oh God, this is all I need now. Miss my flight because it's so freaking packed in the airport. So I was already like, oh man, let's see how this goes. But I walk all the way down to United. I had again, thank God, no line at United. I don't know where all those people were going or what they're waiting for, but there was no line there. So I checked in fast, and then there was a separate entranceway for direct flights to the US, which was mine. So again, I'm like, phew, I don't know why, but there was no line or anything there, and the rest of the airport was packed like a zoo. So thank God, again, I skipped all that stuff, didn't get caught in that mess, because who knows, maybe I would have missed my flight, even though I was there almost 2 hours early, which is pretty good for me. So yeah, that went well. And then even whatever other line there was, again, having some good luck along the way, or whatever you want to call it, but I'm walking down to go through this security thing or whatever comes up next, and one of the people working there, like, you know, opens this other line, and she's like, oh, like, keep going that way. So I bypass that whole line and go straight into the security checkpoint and whatever. So anyways, thankfully that all went smooth. And also just another cool thing, like, everything's been, and I think more so in other countries I didn't even notice, but the whole check-in process is like way more automatic and faster, which is nice. You just scan your passport. You didn't even give it to a person like you usually do. They ask you questions and all that. You just scan in the machine, you walk through, like, the thing slides open, then you look into this camera, that slides open, and then when you get to the person, he's literally just stamping everyone's passport. There's like no conversation. So process has definitely changed, but it's speeding up things, so that's good. So yeah, that was pretty much the rest of the adventure. I made it here, not a day late or anything like that, which is good because I'm here for work. And all good. I grabbed one more coffee at the airport, cappuccino. This time I had it before noon, so it was appropriate. And some other thing with Nutella, of course. It's kind of like a donut. I probably should have gotten a croissant or something, but had enough the day before. Anyways, that was my last little enjoyment while being in Italy. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I was trying to remember any last details, but I think that's mostly really it and all the key points. One thing I did notice before, just again with the little things, like you hear you hear good morning and good evening all the time in Italian. Never heard anyone say good afternoon or good night for that matter. It's like people just skip over that. So just an interesting side note. But yeah, I think that's it. And also another thing I noticed between like similarities and differences between Spanish and Italian, I think Spanish is a lot more phonetic. So knowing English, if you see a word but pronounce it phonetically, like you have it in Spanish, whereas Italian's not that way. So I need to learn better, like how when the letters are put together, what the pronunciation is, because it's not as phonetic as I feel like Spanish is. Someone did tell me Italian's harder. So anyways, at least I've learned a little bit. I'll have to go back to learn some more. But thank you all for joining me on the adventure. I'm actually going to be back in Europe in 3 weeks, going for a work event, but of course staying longer to work remote. So I will be in Europe for a month moving around. So I'll come back at that point and do some more vlogging and fill you in on the next adventure. So until then, thanks for joining. Bye.